Andrew, you should try this Wagyu beef. It is to die for. Instantly, my response is like, do you want to know someone who died for you? You know?
One thing about his notes is because they're all connected, in the event there's a meltdown, it's really like everything melts together.
Hi there, my name is Adriel,
My name is Yan Ping.
and this is the Teo-logy podcast. So today we have something really interesting and fun, and it's called brain operating systems.
Yeah, we're gonna pick each other's brains.
So, but I guess for the first time hearers, right, they do not know why they need to listen to this episode also. So, Yan Ping, could you just give them a preface of what to expect and how are we going to look at it?
Yeah, I think for starters, why we came about this topic was because over time, Edra and I realized that we have very, very different brains, and it's not just like a childhood background thing. It's not a context thing. It's the way we think and process the world is just really different, and I think that applies to pretty much everybody. Like you have different brain operating systems, and that's why people say like, oh, I just don't get his wavelength, or we cannot see eye to eye, I don't understand him. So we thought unpacking this might help people as well to think about how you process things and maybe how other people around you process things and why it's so difficult for you to understand each other.
Yeah, and we're talking about analogies here. So for those who might fail to capture what we're trying to say, when we talk about brain operating system, let's liken your brain into like a computer, a hardware, by which the operating system is the software to which how the computer will utilize the software to make use of whatever applications that you put on it to make sense of certain things around you. Yeah, so for example, a computer can use Linux, Windows, Mac OS, your phone, either iOS or Android, but all of them can still come up with the same outcomes, but perhaps a slightly different method or a user interface, how you navigate your brain. Yeah. And so the hopes for today's one is that as you think things through, the question is then what brain operating systems are you? And if we fail to introduce another operating system that you think we didn't cover, we highly recommend that you comment below. Yeah. But today we're just going to introduce 3 operating systems. You're going to guess which one ours are. We're going to go through how these operating systems function, and then we're going to see what are the pros and cons and how to manage this operating system better in a day-to-day basis.
And just to say that we're using very, very layman terms of how we make sense of the operating systems, but they are loosely backed by research evidence, so you can go and read about them, and there are probably other frameworks as well out there.
Yeah. So, shall we begin with the types?
Yeah, let's introduce the 3 first, and then let's get people to guess who I am, who you are, and maybe who they are themselves.
Will you have the privilege? Can I give the privilege to then unpack all 3, share all 3?
Sure. So the first system, OS system for your brain, we call it the Pulsating Node System.
The PNS.
Not PMS, thankfully.
Yeah, no.
The second system is called the Computer Filing System. And the third system is called the Parliament System.
All right. Drum roll, everybody, so that you can guess which one are we. Okay. For me, if you have guessed Pulsating Node System, you have guessed correctly. And if you have guessed Computer Filing System for Yan Ping, you also have guessed correctly. So without further ado, allow us to unpack each the 3 systems for you, and then we go step by step. So why not begin with mine? Okay, so pulsating node, that word is in the definition. The definition is in the word itself. Pulsating means it's constantly brimming with energy, boom, 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 into multiple nodes, and
they're all interconnected.
They're all interconnected from anything to everywhere, and that's how I take in input. So when I see something, I will then remember that, connect it to a node that can be connected to elsewhere, and then I'll make the whole branch of connection so that one particular thing can be connected to a hundred
million
and a
things.
million things in my brain. And
Yeah.
to make sense of it, whether it's funny or it doesn't need to make sense, my brain is still making sense and I make sense of it out loud.
Yeah. And one classic thing that I realized is that when Adriel says, and so, usually the sentence before the and so has nothing to do with the sentence after the and so.
Yeah, actually there is, but my vocabulary doesn't catch up to my brain.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
usually he has this sentence which bounces off to like a few thoughts and then it comes out with and so. So there is a connection and I have to ask him to articulate how he got
Right.
there, but you will, from the outsider, you'll never see the connection.
So she has to slow me down for me to rephrase certain things like oh, I wanted to say this, or I want to change topic. Yeah, because my brain has pulsated to another note that might be further off the current note kind of thing. And how my brain got there, she has the privilege to ask. Oh, then I will say sometimes I'll go like, oh, I was thinking of this, then it went to this, then went to that, and hence I thought I want to talk about that.
Yeah, so it's very helpful for him to be very relational and also very good with languages. So I'm going to test him a little bit here just to show you
Yo.
in front. So people who know Edro know he's very good in puns. One way is, can you come up with a pun that has to do with a chair?
A chair. Okay. She's testing me at the moment right now, so I'm put to the mode to show you how I'm thinking out loud. So I'm thinking of, if I want to make a pun, is it something I want to talk about sitting on, or do I make it to a language pun where I go like, if something wrong happens, and when she sits on it, I go like, oh, chair. You can see where I'm going.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make simple connections to everything. Is it chairperson, right? Or I fall down and my leg got chair. So you can see how I'm trying to make that
Yeah.
the pun out lah.
And you can see how he jumps languages, right? Because chair is Hokkien, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that also helps with him learning languages. So I'm going to test him again. How do you say, I am going out for a walk in Nepalese?
Oh, the dialect, right? The
Yeah.
one that we have been learning.
From our security guard.
Hunshi jadai chu.
Eh. And how do you say good evening in Arabic?
Oh, Marhaban masa al khair habibi.
That's longer than just good evening. But how do you say wait for me in Korean?
Oh, chansi manyo, changkam man. Chogi.
Yeah, so he picks up things very fast because of that pulsating node as well.
Yeah. So that's the pulsating node system. So much so that it helps me in how I do evangelism and discipleship, because my brain is constantly connected. This one I learned from a friend, Mason. Okay, he calls this the 4 S's. Right? How he shares the gospel. He goes from talk to something about something simple, and goes to serious, and then goes to spiritual, and then goes to salvation. Yeah, so my pulsating node can, if you're drinking coffee, I will begin the conversation about coffee to end the conversation with Jesus. Yeah, and something as simple as coffee, I'll dig out your value system and all that. To which, I don't know whether I said this early on, but all the notes depends on what you value. Yeah, so my notes can be different from your notes, although we have the same OS. It depends on what you want to put in as a note. Yeah, to then
An
make the
important
connection.
value system.
Correct, important value system. So we shall unpack further in the pros and cons later lah. Yeah, but this is how it helps me. So one other example is, my friend will suddenly talk about 7-Eleven, and I just go, hello, welcome, as one of the sounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the pulsating node system. So Yan-Ping, why not you share your CFS OS?
My computer filing system. So it's how I make sense of the world and how I process things. When there's a new information, I kind of need to categorize it or put it in a place where there are other things connected to it. And to be fair, that is a very child developmental theory kind of language. So in child development, we talk about schemas, where a kid as young as 2 or 3, even though he doesn't know a lot of things, he already has some simple folders. And then when a new information of the world comes in, he has to see whether it fits into his folder, or he has to accommodate and change what he understands about the world. Yeah, so for me, obviously, as a grown person, I have lots and lots of folders, lots and lots of data points, and it helps me to see trends. It helps me to identify systems and notice things. Yeah.
And so when she's overly busy, right, how I identify is when she stares into blank space.
Or my eyes, right?
Yeah, on her eyes.
My eye movement.
Correct. Or she's looking in the blank space, but she's not looking at you. She's not looking at anything. She's looking at something else, right? And this is akin to her wearing the latest Meta glasses, where there is a microchip and there's a screen right there. So she might be looking at you, but she's not looking at you. So what I would do to show her that I'm entering her operating system is I will walk to her where she's looking at, and I'll do like that, to show her that I know what she's processing, and I say, would you want to talk to me about it? So I will help her defragment certain things, and I will enter her operating system and have a conversation to which I'm able to understand her worldview better. Yeah.
And I do see different people have that system in different ways. So for example,
just let that fall. Yeah.
We'll fix it later. So I do see people having different forms of their OS, or apply it in different ways. So for example, we have a friend who likes to categorize people by personalities, and she will say like, oh, that's a very T thing to do, or she'll say like, oh, the J in you is doing blah blah blah, or thinking this, or I need this because I'm an E, that kind of thing. We also have friends who think in very ones and zeros, and that's really, really fun because it's very hard for them to understand nuances. They just error 404. And we had a friend who just couldn't accept gray areas.
Yeah, he was complaining something has to be black and white. It cannot be gray.
Cannot make sense of it, until one day we talked about it, because he was very stuck with this gray area, and we said like, hey, actually gray is a mixture of millions and millions of black and white dots. And then that struck him because then he knew how to like synthesize it down, right? And he just went wow like 15 times or 20 times.
Yeah, because what we have done was we created a coding language to allow gray to exist in the ones and zeros. We have another friend who is ones and zeros, and he's been learning to be gracious in a way where when he doesn't understand, the best he can come out is interesting. But it's a way of saying that I hear you, I don't get you, I don't think I'll ever get you, but noted. So
cannot find in my OS.
So CFS can be the unupdated ones and zeros version, or you can be updated to the desktop version where you can click and it's picture, images and all that. Yeah. So that's CFS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the final one.
Okay, the parliament system. Okay.
So in psychological terms, people usually call it the internal family system.
In Pixar terms, it's inside out, But okay, so inside out gives you this in the person's brain. There are multiple emotions inside trying to help the main person trying to make sense of it. But where we are coming parliament system again is a bunch of different versions of you trying to have different values, and all this hold on to you to decide what is the best decision based on all the values that have been laid out. Yeah.
So maybe I can give an example to help people understand better. Let's say you are you have a family of your own, you have kids, and then you have aging parents, and maybe your parents are ill or weak, and you're thinking about what's the best way to take care of your parents, right? So inside you probably hold quite a few values. Number one, you're a filial child, and you're concerned for your parents, you want to have the best for them. Number two, you have your own family, so you don't want to burden your spouse. You have responsibilities for your kids. Number three, you might be thinking about your siblings, and maybe you had some previous tension with them, and then if you communicated to them like, oh, can you help take care of your parents, you might have to like bring up a whole bunch of history. And then the fourth is like you going like, oh, but how about me? Where's my me time if I'm going to have to serve all these different people?
So the parliament system then will start discussing with one another which one is the best decision to make.
Because all four are values, and all four are values that you hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably there might be a dominant value, or you might have a dictator that just tells everybody, okay, shut up. We're going to proceed with this.
Yeah, so it is my favorite operating system to use to help others make sense of things. Yeah, and how does that help me is because when I talk to students, obviously I'm trying to hear where the tension lies, and I will usually use the lingo. I'll say, "Hey, do you realize that there are two more versions of you, trying to make sense of this?" And for them, it's like, "Wow, I never thought of it that way," and it makes sense of them to help navigate the tensions better. Yeah.
Because sometimes you might not realize it. So let's say, for example, you made the decision to get your mom to stay with you, right? And basically value number one, filial son, ching.
But you still feel crappy.
Yeah. And then, but you are always complaining like, oh, why is my mom doing this? Oh, my wife is nagging at me. Oh, I'm so tired. And what is actually happening is the value of like, maybe where is my me time is crying out, but you're not aware of it.
And so when someone doesn't use the parliament operating system, but the response could be, okay lah, then just ask someone else to help you lah. Or put your mother in the nursing home lah. And then the other version of you come out, hey, cannot lah, I must be a good son, kind of thing. So to someone like us, when we use that parliament system, right, instantly you say, hey, you need to be true to yourself. There are so many versions of you coming out. You need to slow down and hear each other out.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you might still stick to your decision, but at least you have given time to acknowledge that, yeah, I actually wanted some me time. I need to grieve about it. And then you can continue on and take care of your mom,
Yeah. So with that, perhaps we move on to the pros and cons of each operating system and how we go about managing the system in this world. Tips for you guys. Yeah. So we just go with the pulsating node system.
Sure.
Yeah. So the pros of it all is that how someone like with my brain operating system, I am able to make connections faster than a lot of other people. Yeah.
And it makes him very creative because he can create something almost like out of nothing, right?
Yeah. Like currently we are on a project of creating these board games for Christians to disciple teenagers. And it's called Serpents and Eagles. Now my brain, there's one node in my brain somewhere that played Snakes and Ladders. I borrowed that mechanic, Christianify it, and add more mechanics in it to make it fun and engaging. And ta-da! Because I connected Snakes and Ladders and my desire to disciple people. And then the question is, how then do I make it to maximize engaging?
Yeah.
So my brain goes ding, 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 ding.
And my filing system is like, no, Snakes and Ladders is not connected to discipling people, right? But then he can do it.
Correct.
So yeah.
So the pro is making those connections, and that is why making friendships is very easy for me. I'm not saying I particularly have the energy to make friends out of all nations, right? But it's just you sit down with me 2 minutes. I will just ask you questions on who you are, where you go, what you do. My brain is instantly connecting. Is there anything in what he says that I know of, I can relate to make them feel like I'm connected to them? Yeah. So the one of the pros is that kind of connections. Number 2, creativity. And number 3, is just being able to make sense of things. Hey,
You're very quick. You're very quick.
Yeah, I'm thinking at the top of my toes. Is that the word?
Head.
Yeah. This is me. My notes connecting wrongly already. But the cons is, at least for me, is if it's constantly pulsating. Sometimes you fail to shut off because your brain just can't help but keep making connections. Yeah.
So like sleep for him is actually the time when his brain is the most active and all the ideas pop out, right? And I have had quite a few nights where he'll be like, dear, I'm gonna go out and type something at 3 a.m.
Yeah. So sometimes you might feel a bit unrest. Correct. So here's the tips, right, to manage this operating system. So the 2 things I would suggest is this. For the pulsating node system, you have to identify your original main node. by which every other nodes that are placed it will be connected to it. That will give you a sense of clarity on what nodes to put on and when to shut off. And I'm still learning this, by the way.
Yeah.
So one node I can explain is that my core node is that how can I be constantly pointing people to Jesus? So every node that comes alongside for that is to eventually point back the person to Jesus. Whether it's to connect with them on things like Wagyu. So there's one time, right? Someone says, Andrew, you should try this Wagyu beef. It is to die for. Instantly, my response is like, do you want to know someone who died for you? That kind of thing. So you can see how my brain is working already, lah.
Yeah.
So consider your
core
node,
values, which is your core nodes.
Correct, your core nodes. And then from there, you will learn to connect better. And second, learn to be at rest that you're not the savior. Ideas are good, but don't always have to be on your timeline. And when is that the case, then you can be at rest to know that you have the next day in that sense.
I want to add something from an observer point of view. So one thing about his notes is because they're all connected, in the event there's a meltdown, it's really like everything melts together. And from an outsider point of view is then to identify where's the source of the meltdown. And sometimes it's really hard to find the source. So sometimes I just gotta sit there and let him melt down, or find notes that I can activate to shut down the meltdown.
Yeah. Okay, now CFS pros and cons and tips.
Oh, so the good thing about CFS is it helps you really see trends and patterns in the world. It's helpful for explaining things. It's very helpful for solving problems. You'll be like, oh, this is X plus Y equals Y. You just put this as X, you put that as Y. You can always change things around. It's still the same formula. You also have a large database that you can tap into. So I use that a lot when I relate to people and also in work. But the downside, then sometimes I feel like I collect a lot of unnecessary cash, and then that decapacitates me in my daily living, especially when I'm trying to work out a process or trying to solve a problem. So the simplest things, I'll forget things, I'll drop things, I'll knock into something. Yeah.
And that's her version of a meltdown. Her meltdown is she cannot function. My meltdown is more visible. Like, oh no, everything's breaking apart. Hers is like everything just goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I think I mentioned in the previous one of the previous episodes, when one of her meltdowns was that she locked me out of the house for an hour plus. And that's something where on my end I have to muster up lots of grace because she's my wife, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are the tips again? Do you share the tips? Did I miss
Well, I said pros and cons.
Yeah.
So I guess tips to manage it. Number one, do acknowledge the gift and then use it to help you make sense of the world. If you're in a 1 and 0 kind of OS, try to refine it so that you can have at least decimal points. But also, to me, I guess it's learning what I value and learning to let go of a lot of cash so that it doesn't clutter my brain, and be okay if things cannot be put in folders by the end of the day, so that I can just leave it as an unsolved problem.
Yeah, and you know who's exhibit number 1 that she cannot put in a folder? Me.
Yeah, because he's always evolving. He's constantly changing. He's very fluid. He's always bouncing around.
Yeah. And it's helpful that I remind her that she doesn't need to make sense of me all the time, but to appreciate each other in the sense as we grow together lah. Yeah. So
Third, internal family system or the parliament system.
And finally, for the parliament system, the pros and cons. So one of the pros is that if you are aware of the multiple values within you trying to talk things out, then you are able to hold the tension better. Yeah. And so the decisions you make on how do you want to disperse this energy resource wisely depends on how you agree lah.
Yep.
Now the con about that will probably be if there is an aspect of you that you neglect a lot. Yeah. Before I continue, do you want to add anything?
I guess it also helps you to be more consistent, because and that leads to the con if failing which, right? Because if you're more aware, then it helps you to be more consistent with your actions, your words, with your thoughts and your feelings. Yeah.
Okay. And so then I'll add on then is that when there is a sense of neglect, then you will actually go through your day just feeling all the tensions or the cognitive dissonance lah. That's how I word it. Yeah.
I would also say one con is if you're someone who's like super into it and then you keep telling people like, oh, I'm trying to sit with my emotions and I'm trying to let all these different people hear, then number one, it'll probably make you take longer for you to process things because you're allowing, all the different values to sit through and trash it out. And then it might be hard for people to understand or relate. They might just think you're being very emotional. I don't know.
Okay. If you put it that way, I slightly disagree. So I feel like when people say that, oh, I'm just trying to save my emotions, right? There are two possibilities. Number one could be exactly what you just said. But number two, it might be the lingo of today's generation, of this overly self-aware, this so-called overly emotionally regulated capacity. However, they might use it as an excuse to not get things done.
I think that was what I was alluding to. Like if someone keeps like saying, oh, I'm trying to let my younger self, have a voice, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Could become like a handicap.
Okay. So if you are in the parliament system brain space, here's a reminder on how you navigate this. Number one, always remember that although there are multiple persons holding different values within you, remember that they all exist for your sake in that sense. And always remember that usually what I come to realize when I use the parliament system on someone else to discuss matters, there is always a younger self that they are trying to protect. And all of these values come about to make sure that this younger self does not experience the sort of quote-unquote traumatic experience or pain that they initially went through. Yeah. So remember these two things, that they all exist for your sake, and that there's something that usually they want to protect for the betterment. Hence why there's a parliament system discussing to decide on certain matters. And so for that, if you hold on to that view, always remember the goal is learning to align all those values together into a greater value, and then from there you know how to decide how to disperse your resources, mental resources. Yeah. So I think that's it. Maybe do you have any final thoughts? I have some. Maybe you can add as we come to a close for this.
I guess the idea of understanding yourself better and understanding that there are different brain OSs, right, is just to help us understand other people. Why is it that maybe it's so difficult for you to see eye to eye? Or why is it that, you struggle to process certain things? And I guess that helps give you some grace towards yourself, towards other people, and it also helps you to be a bit more understanding. So I guess that's what we're trying to do with this episode, and hopefully it sheds some light for you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think for me, is to help you see, right, just like how one person can be tech savvy. And tech savvy meaning I know about all the different OSs out there on the computer, I know how to use some. I think we should learn how to be brain OS savvy as well. Meaning, now that you're aware of this, it doesn't mean that, you say, I resonate with the pulsating node system and this is who I'm going to be, this is who I am, and you use that as a form of identity. No. In fact, use this chance to learn how to use either different OSs for yourself and on others as well. So it's not to just create a sense of understanding, but to expand your capacity of how you learn to make sense of things. Each OS has their pros and cons. And so you as a hardware, if you learn how to download these different OSs, it will definitely expand your ability to make decisions well. Yeah. So I guess that's it for now.
This is the Teo-logy podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.